What's up guys? So as you can tell by the title of this video, I wanted to make a list of tips and tricks for Rocket League that I thought were some of the most important to keep in mind. For this video, I'm going to split it up into sections: beginner, intermediate, advanced, and expert. The point of this video isn't going to be focused on how to do certain mechanics, but more on things to keep in mind when trying to improve. There's a bunch of different tutorials on YouTube that I'll link below, but if anyone is interested, I can make more in-depth videos for individual positioning or mechanical tips. With that said, let's start with some general things to remember. First off, I'm not a Rocket League coach or a pro player, but I solo queued to Grand Champion Season 10, and so everything in this video is either my personal knowledge and experiences, or things I've heard from pro players or coaches. Second, the only thing random about Rocket League are the kickoff spawns and rumble power-ups. 50-50s, bounces, and demos are all mechanics and physics that are a part of the game, so keep this in mind next time you have a bad 50 or a ball bounces off the wall in a weird way. With all that said, let's get into it. One of the first pieces of advice I can give for new players is for you to take off camera shake because it will never help you, and for you to change your camera settings. These are my current settings, but there are also a bunch of presets from pro players that you can try out. The next thing I can recommend for players who want to start getting into the game is to learn the field. Just get used to how long the field is and how the walls, the ceiling, and corners work. Something that goes hand in hand with learning the layout is learning how your car actually works. Pay attention how driving, flipping, and boosting will all factor in to how your car gains speed or how it will affect hitting the ball. Another thing I notice a lot of lower level players doing is taking off ball cam far too much. I mostly see it when players are rotating back towards their net or when they go for a boost. Becoming comfortable with leaving on ball cam will help keep you engaged in the play and increase the time you have to react. Taking off ball cam should be reserved when you're checking for boost, to see where teammates are, or some other situations that I'll mention later on in the video. This is where you're going to start your most useful building blocks, because there are so many mechanics that you should learn that you will use for as long as you're playing the game. By no means am I putting these in a specific order, but some mechanics that you should begin to learn are half flips, wave dashes, simple air dribbles, and fast aerials. In regards to air dribbles, getting more and more comfortable on the wall will minimize many mistakes that you may be guilty of doing. A big mistake I see players make before they are comfortable on the wall is when they only side flip or even worse, backflip off the wall. Practicing air rolls off the wall will greatly increase your aerial control. Another skill you're going to want to improve are your 50-50s. Learning to win more 50s will set you or your team up with more opportunities by having offensive pressure or by buying them time to rotate or grab boost. The last physical mechanic I'm going to talk about in this section is dribbling. Not only is it a strong way to keep possession, but it will begin your foundation for flicks and ground to air dribbles, or any other mechanics involving dribbling. So now I'm going to move on to positioning and game sense tips. For all the game sense and positioning tips in this video, watching pro play or commentators break down their playstyles will definitely help support everything in this video. So like I've said, none of these are in a specific order, but shadowing is something I want to talk about first, and that it's something that might take you some time to get down. Just something to keep in mind is that the better you get, the better other players get, and the more they will be able to do while attacking your net. So adapting to different shots will be your best friend for defense. Next up are rotations, and that they are, in my opinion, one of the most important things in Rocket League, but some people might disagree. Proper rotations will teach you when to leave the ball for a teammate, when to grab boost, and where to be next in the play. For me, watching pro play really helped me improve my rotations, and depending on if you dive into 1s, 2s, or 3s, the rotations become different, so keep that in mind. The third and final tip for this section is that you should begin to pay attention to where players are on the field at any given time, because knowing when you're next in rotation or seeing passing opportunities is something you should start to look for as you improve. Playing with the same teammates can often help you build this chemistry for situations like this, but you should always look for teammates who are ready for a pass even when solo queuing. Now that I've mentioned all of these different mechanical and positioning tips, let's move on to some different ways you're going to use them. This section is going to build a lot on the tips from intermediate, but remain relatively short because there are not as many new tips from this point on. As you improve, I'm sure you will or have noticed the pace of the game changing. So one of the first things I want to bring up is that throughout every rank you should be looking to play faster, but it can be easy to get caught up in ball chasing. By playing fast, I mean forcing yourself to flip more to keep momentum, driving backwards as little as possible, dialing in your fast aerials, controlling your boost management, and having good rotations. Touching back on boost management, by this time you should always try to have something in the bank, whether it be one small boost pad or 12 boost, or even stretching out the corner boost you just grabbed to last longer, as well as mastering the ability to grab boost without taking off a ball cam. In terms of mechanics for this section, you should already be close to or have dialed in all of the previous mechanics. Some new mechanics I can think of that you should start to learn if you haven't already are holding power slide on most to all of your recoveries, especially if you get bumped or you land sideways at any time, flip canceling, flashier aerial or ground shots such as ceiling shots or different kinds of flicks, and redirecting harder angles. Let me know in the comments if anything is too vague and I can elaborate in a separate video. But now I'm going to move on to the final section. At this point in skill, you should have mastered most of or all of the mechanics in positioning before this. By no means do you have to play perfect at this level or have perfect air dribbles every time, but what I often see is a single player making one single mistake all game, which costs them the win. So keep that in mind the next time that you're the one that makes that one mistake. To me, some of the most important things at this level are always knowing where every player is, like previously mentioned, knowing exactly when boost pads are going to spawn, playing very fast and consistent, never underestimating any player, continuing to practice since no player is perfect, and to me, the most important of all, always play proactive and not reactive. Elaborating more on what I mean by proactive, and that you should always look for what is going to happen next based on what is happening at the moment. Thinking 2 steps ahead is something that will come from playing the game, where similar situations will build up in your brain over time, and you'll eventually be able to plug in specific reactions to any given play before it actually happens. But remember that building this muscle memory takes focus. Like I said, a lot of these tips and tricks were my personal preference in terms of what skills should or are usually learned at certain levels. And as you play, it is important to always actively try to improve at what you're doing and not just go through the motions. Find out what you're doing wrong and fix it, then move on to the next thing. I know there are a lot of things that I could have gone more in depth about or added, but this video would have ended up being 30 minutes. So I hope this video puts some things into perspective for newer players and even players who are towards advanced or expert. If you have a question, throw it down in the comments or reach me on my socials, which will be linked below. And if there are any requests for me to go more in depth with specific tips or mechanics, I'm more than happy to start putting out some shorter individual videos or tips for specific players. With all that being said, catch you guys later.